Have you ever wondered what truly lies inside a national military history museum? Are these towering fighter jets and massive tanks real? How did they manage to survive the absolute devastation of war? What does history actually look like when it stands right before your eyes? Welcome to the largest military museum in Vietnam. Hi, I am Thai, a 31-year-old local. Today, I want to take you inside and show you exactly what breathes within the walls of Vietnam's most expansive military history museum. This is an electric bus, undeniably one of the most comfortable ways to navigate the city. Stepping inside, the blast of cool air offers an instant, soothing escape from the relentless heat blazing outside. The passengers around me are everyday people. Students heading to class, working-class locals making ends meet, or simply those enjoying a quiet ride. The driver is currently walking down the aisle to collect fares. I am heading to a destination 7 kilometers away, and this escape costs me a mere 28 cents. We have finally arrived. After a quick 15-minute ride, I now stand before the grand entrance of the museum. I will head over to purchase a ticket. The standard admission fee here is $1.60. However, in a quiet gesture of respect and support, students, the elderly, and war veterans are offered half-price admission, bringing the cost down to just 80 cents. This sprawling museum covers a massive 38.6 hectares. The outdoor exhibition space, dedicated to heavy, formidable machinery like aircraft, tanks, and artillery, is distinctly split into 2 clear wings, flanking the left and right of the main building. Directly in front of me, gazing down the left wing, lies a vast collection of weapons and equipment wielded by the Vietnamese military and its people throughout their long, grueling resistance wars. Beside every single artifact stands a quiet information board, offering its name, manufacturing origin, and a glimpse into its combat history. This towering structure is a SAM-2 missile, forged by the Soviet Union. It was heavily deployed by the Vietnam People's Army to shield the skies of the North during the devastating American air raids from 1970 to 1973, reaching its peak during the harrowing 12 days and nights of 1972. A campaign etched in history as the Dien Bien Phu in the air. These SAM-2 forces flawlessly shot down 29 B-52 bombers, many crashing on the spot, entirely shattering the enemy's strategic aerial assault. Resting closely beside it is the Su-22. Just look at the imposing fighter jet towering behind me. This is the Su-22, bearing the tail number 5832. It rightfully earned the moniker Magic Wings because its wings possess the incredible mechanical ability to alter their shape mid-flight. Back in the intense era of the 1980s, these roaring jets were the supreme guardians of the sky, piercing through clouds and flying hundreds of miles across the vast ocean to fiercely protect Vietnam's Spratly Islands. It remains a deeply powerful physical symbol of national sovereignty. And here we have the MiG-17, marked with the number 2047. If you were to compare it technically at the time, it was drastically outmatched by the F-4 Phantom E and the F-105 Thunderchief. Yet, defying logic and odds, It successfully tore down 7 American aircraft between 1965 and 1968. Out of the 6 pilots who braved this cockpit, 3 were later decorated as heroes of the People's Armed Forces. Every painted number holds a bleeding piece of history. To touch its cold exterior and read its past, it evokes a quiet, overwhelming pride in being Vietnamese. As you scan the yard, you will notice that a vast majority of the military hardware standing here was provided by the Soviet Union, heavily supporting Vietnam during its darkest hours. This behemoth is a heavy transport truck. It tirelessly navigated the treacherous, winding paths of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, transporting vital military gear, raw supplies, and heavy weapons throughout the brutal resistance against America from 1965 to 1975. To ensure survival along these heavily bombed routes, these massive vehicles were meticulously cloaked in dense branches, camouflaging them to look like moving bushes in the thick jungle. Pushing forward into the right wing of the yard, this desolate space is designated for exhibiting the weaponry and machinery wielded by the French and American forces during their invasions of Vietnam. Everything standing on this side was stripped from the battlefield, captured by the Vietnamese army and its people as silent, hard-won spoils of war. This towering piece of machinery is the 175 mm self-propelled artillery gun, engineered by the United States and deployed to the Vietnamese battlefield in October 1965. Earning the fearsome title King of the Battlefield, it was a truly terrifying weapon of mass destruction during the war, capable of launching massive, devastating shells from an astonishing distance of 32 kilometers. It struck deep fear from afar. At the time, the American military firmly believed this colossal engine of war was completely invincible, an unstoppable force dominating the uneven terrain. The aging soldiers who once fought in that era still occasionally drift back to these very grounds. They return to quietly reminisce, taking photographs next to the cold artifacts as if capturing pieces of their lost youth. Sometimes they cross paths with foreign tourists, and in a beautiful, spontaneous exchange, they pause to take pictures together. Former enemies and distant strangers sharing a fragile moment of peace on the same soil. Resting silently before us is the AD-6 attack aircraft. This powerful machine was originally provided by the United States to heavily equip the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. However, its operational history abruptly changed course during the historic Ho Chi Minh Campaign in April 1975. The Liberation Army of South Vietnam captured this aircraft directly at the Bien Ho Air Base in Dong Nai Province, marking a definitive shift in the final days of the prolonged conflict. Try to wrap your mind around the sheer magnitude of this. In a brief span of just 7 years, from 1965 to 1972, the divided north and south of Vietnam absorbed a crushing 5,382,000 tons of bombs dropped by the American military. Can you even begin to fathom the horror of that reality? That unrelenting rain of steel caused over 200,000 agonizing casualties, violently extinguishing nearly 80,000 lives. Displayed here are the mangled engines and violently twisted wreckage of downed aircraft, Detailed plaques calmly explain the timelines and bloody milestones of their destruction. Stripped of their former glory, these fragmented remnants now sit quietly, heavily scarred and rusting away beneath the relentless weight of passing time. Towering heavily over the wreckage is the Boeing 47, a Chinook helicopter, bearing the tail number 19082. Once a vital, thundering asset for heavy transport and troop movement, this twin-engine giant now rests in total silence. Its massive, fading olive green fuselage serves as a haunting physical reminder of an intensely chaotic era. Let your eyes wander to this colossal machine, the Ki-130 Hercules transport aircraft. Originally equipped for the United States Air Force and Navy back in 1956, this four-engine workhorse played a massive logistical role throughout the grueling Vietnam War. However, its military campaign abruptly ended when the Liberation Army of South Vietnam successfully captured it during the decisive Ho Chi Minh Campaign in April 1975. Now, it rests peacefully on Vietnamese soil. Now, step away from the glare of the sun and follow me inside the museum. You will easily catch sight of organized tour groups slowly exploring the exhibits like this. They are often travelers journeying from distant provinces, carrying a deep, shared desire to uncover and connect with the quiet struggles of the ancestors who lived long before them. Stepping firmly inside, the physical atmosphere transforms immediately. It becomes profoundly more comforting, offering a cool shelter from the abrasive outdoor environment. Stationed right in the dead center of the main hall, you will lock eyes with a true legend of the Vietnamese sky. This is the MiG-21 fighter jet, carrying the proud number 4,324. During the violent aerial clashes of 1967, this very machine was launched into combat, successfully shooting down 14 various aircraft belonging to the US Air Force. What is truly astonishing is that 9 completely different Vietnamese pilots rotated through this exact cockpit, and every single one of them was later crowned a hero. You can clearly trace the 14 red stars boldly painted on its nose, each one an undisputed mark of a glorious victory. Guarding the space right next to it is the T-54B tank, designated number 843, an immortal, heavy iron symbol of peace for the people of Vietnam. At precisely 11 a.m. on April 30th, 1975, this steel beast violently rammed through the side gates of the Independence Palace in Saigon. The chaotic yet triumphant image of the company commander rushing into the palace, tightly clutching the victory flag, forever marked the exact hour a fractured nation was finally stitched back together, officially drawing the curtain on a brutal war that had mercilessly dragged on for over 2 decades. Vietnam holds on to another heroic MiG-21, numbered 5121, intrinsically bound to the legendary name of Pilot Pham Tuan. During the suffocating 12 days and nights of the Dien Bien Phu in the air campaign in 1972, it was inside this claustrophobic cockpit that he launched straight into the impenetrable darkness. Slicing through dense, heavily fortified defensive layers, he successfully brought down an American B-52 Flying Fortress. This act rewrote history. It was the very first B-52 in the world to ever be shot out of the sky by a fighter jet in direct, air-to-air combat. For me, one of the most profoundly moving spaces in the entire building is the 3D projection area, breathing life into the Dien Bien Phu victory of 1954. The brilliant collision of dynamic lighting and raw, immersive audio forces you to tangibly feel the agonizing weight of a 56-day battle. Days built on hollowing out mountains, sleeping in mud-filled trenches, suffering through endless rain, and surviving on tightly packed balls of rice. It was in that living hell that the Vietnamese military pulled off the impossible, employing nothing but raw human muscle to drag cannons weighing thousands of pounds up vertical mountain peaks, ultimately surrounding and obliterating the most heavily fortified stronghold of the French colonialists. A silent, yet staggering contributor to that earth-shattering victory was the army of tens of thousands of primitive pack bicycles, looking exactly like this one. To keep a bleeding battlefield alive, ordinary civilian bicycles were heavily strapped with stiff bamboo and solid blocks of wood, suddenly granting them the unbelievable capacity to carry loads of 200 to over 300 kilograms of rice and medicine, pushed forward by sheer willpower across hundreds of kilometers of treacherous, mountainous jungle paths. These crude wooden machines utterly crippled the enemy's modern, airborne logistical empire. Venturing deeper into the depths of the museum, we are granted passage to an entirely different dimension, a space that drags us over 2,000 years deep into antiquity. We briefly leave the steel and gunpowder behind to plunge into the era of the Dong Sun bronze drum. To the ancient Vietnamese, the bronze drum was never merely an instrument used for music. It was a heavy, commanding symbol of absolute authority wielded by the Hung Kings during the dawn of the nation. The breathtakingly precise patterns engraved on its cold surface, flying blackbirds, the rhythmic pounding of rice, and men rowing on boats, paint a vivid picture of a thriving wet rice civilization and a fierce spirit of communal unity that was forged in the earliest days of human existence. Before you lie the unpolished, raw wooden stakes yanked straight from the muddy bowels of the Bac Dang River, silent, rotting sentinels that bear witness to Vietnam's unmatched military intellect in the years 938 and 1288. Vietnamese ancestors drove thousands of these heavy, iron-tipped logs deep into the river floor, brilliantly harnessing the relentless push and pull of the ocean tides. They baited the colossal, heavily armed naval fleets of the northern invaders into this submerged graveyard, shredding their hulls and drowning their ambitions through an ingenious philosophy, using the small and unassuming to tear down the mighty. A single, brief journey, tightly compressed into a handful of hours, has somehow managed to unfold a massive, bloody chapter of history that stretches endlessly over thousands of years. The Vietnamese people have been dragged through the flames of countless brutal wars, yet it was never born from a twisted love for weapons or conflict. It stemmed from a desperate, unwavering devotion to peace, independence, and the simple right to be free. Every rusted tank, every shattered piece of metal left behind in these halls stands silently to force future generations to confront the agonizing, astronomical price of peace. Today, as I stand here, I feel the heartbeat of a nation that now looks out at the world with open, welcoming arms, seeing every country as a friend. The history is etched in stone, never to be erased or forgotten, but hatred finds absolutely no place to survive in their hearts anymore. If you ever find yourself wandering through the chaotic, vibrant streets of Hanoi, I urge you to walk through these quiet doors. Come here to physically feel the unyielding, yet profoundly forgiving spirit of this land. Thank you for walking this quiet path with me today. Goodbye, and I hope to see you again.